be separating the saints from the sinners. I am your heavenly host, and joining me are the virtuous Johnny Vegas, the blessed Bridget Christie, the diabolical Mark Watson, and the well-wicked Alan Davis. Let's see if the devil really has all the best tunes. Bridget goes. Wow, that
doesn't suit me at all.
Not in the slightest. Mark goes. Johnny goes. And Alan goes.
Finally.
Is it going to do that every time?
Would it not be great if every time you opened a door, that music played, I think?
Every time you opened your fly.
Right, I think we can take our halos off. We begin with a question about not shaving and soul saving. Are beards good or evil?
Oh, that's a bit disappointing.
I want the whole thing. I want the whole thing. It's like you're not the devil after all.
No, I've no idea. I just wanted to press my button. Good, they're good. Jesus had a beard, and at least he's depicted in all imagery as bearded.
Yes, he is.
He's famously good.
Yes. Anybody else?
Well, I would argue there's baristas.
What?
On the one hand, Jesus. On the other hand, coffee
Baristas,
snobs.
yeah. We're talking hipsters here, we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Every major religion has had some point have had a debate about whether beards on men are good or evil. And then there was a guy called Bouchard in France in the 1160s, and he complicated things by talking about the inner beard. Yeah. Any thoughts? You two have got actual beards? Any thoughts on the inner beard?
We're not meant to talk about the inner beard, are we?
Yeah, the whole point of Inner Beard Club is you don't talk about Inner Beard Club.
So, Bouchard and his fellow monks, they were all clean-shaven, OK? All the lay people had beards, and he inadvertently offended them by writing a letter in which, frankly, it was misinterpreted as an anti-beard comment. And even some people thought a threat to burn their beards off. So he wrote... I mean, this is talk about overcompensating. He wrote an entire treatise called In Defence of Beards, the Apologia de Barbas, in which he wrote of the great strength and wisdom beards denoted. Now he risks offending the monks, because they don't have beards, and he said, but they had an inner beard.
But what about the inner top of the head?
Yeah, the tonsure.
You could do a lattice work like a tart.
Have nuns got inner beards?
Well, some nuns had inner beards, some...
Had outer beards?
Had outer beards, yes. Why might a woman, a saint, decide to grow a beard?
For equal pay?
A false beard, a fake beard, a disguise?
No, so there's lots of stories in Christian tradition that women want to ward off men. So, for example, Saint Wilgefortis, right? Saint Wilgefortis, her dad was desperate for her to marry a king, and she didn't want to, so she prayed to be made repulsive, and she immediately sprouted a beard, at which point her father...
Opened a circus.
He should have done, but instead he had her crucified. I mean, that is quite cross, isn't it?
That's an overreaction.
Yeah.
He could have just grounded her for a bit.
There she is with her full beard.
Did you see that thing with the lions, where one of the lionesses grew a mane? And she's running the pride.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah.
She was like, we don't need a bloke coming in here and messing things up.
So I'll just grow a beard.
So they thought that she was a man.
A man. Yeah.
But there's presumably other stuff on a male. On
Yeah,
a
but this
female.
is...
Anyway, Saint Wilgefortis and Saint Paula the Bearded are two of the most famous women who did this in order to get men...
Paula the Bearded.
To get men to go away.
My grandmother used to say a man with a beard is a man to be feared. But she also said to never have mayonnaise, and that didn't really pan out either.
What did she have against mayonnaise?
She told me it was horrible, and I was about 30 until I dared to have it. It's quite nice.
I love mayonnaise.
Yeah. No disrespect to my late grandma, but she was way off with that, so it makes you wonder if she was right about beards.
With both your beards, are they, like, short on purpose? Is that as far as it goes?
If allowed, and currently I'm not in a relationship, I grow it as long as I can. and I go on picnics, and if the date doesn't go well, I just sit at home laughing, picking out bits of lost food and feeding myself.
Wow, I can't think why you're single, darling. I've never seen you with a beard, Alan. Have you had a beard?
No, me neither. I had a bit of growth once for a role, but I found I was sort of fiddling on with it a bit and never really wanted to go through with it.
When I was in Cinderella at the Old Vic, and I played the storyteller, and it was a man, so I had a fake moustache, and I so quickly got used to it. I found myself in the wings on the second night going, it's going rather well.
It's day 3 when you find yourself tying someone to railroad tracks and going,
So what do we think about moustaches? Like them, don't like them?
You can do anything with a moustache, I think.
I don't think you can do anything with a moustache.
Well,
I don't
you
think
can do that.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that is true. Bouchard, the monk who was in such trouble about beards, argued that it's a monstrous sign and should be avoided. And in fact, it has caused controversy in the past. So in April 1907, all waiters in Paris's top restaurants went on strike over the right to grow moustaches. And the strike cost the industry 25,000 francs a day. It was quite a thing. And it led to assaults on clean-shaven waiters who were still working. Why do you think moustaches were banned?
Hygiene's the only thing I can think of.
He had a long moustache before it dangled in the soup.
I know. This is around the time you first get modern restaurants in Paris, and they wanted to recreate the experience of dining in an upscale home, and domestic servants were not allowed to have facial hair.
For a long time, I just associated it with geography teachers. That and corduroy.
Yeah.
They're all a bit undernourished as well. Everyone in the geography department was a bit skinny and bearded and in corduroy.
Yeah.
And they looked like they were on the verge of orienteering at the drop of a hat.
There's a real kind of moustache on a teacher like that when you walk in and you go, divorce.
Housemate, when I was at university, he had to shave twice a day. He had just very rapid growth. And I could see if he had extremely rapid growth that you would just give in and have a
Yeah,
beard.
just think, can't be.
What did he shave twice a day? Everything or just one?
Just his face.
Right. But was everything else growing at the same...
I made no inquiries about everything else.
There's certain blokes, and here looks like that, and then the rest of them looks like an untamed gorilla.
Sometimes you get a surprise hairy back. Someone you wouldn't expect.
Do you know what I do? I just put loads of double-sided tape against the wall and throw myself at it.
You want to throw the cat? You peel her off and there's a cat shape.
The worst thing is you realise you live alone. You've got to ring a friend. Can you come and get me again?
Have a look at this. This is a very strange idea of a possible method to improve shaving. It's a satirical print, I have to tell you, from 1749. A horse-powered mass shaving device. So you put your face in a hole and the razors whirl around on the inside. It says on
That's
there...
a lot of pressure on one horse, isn't
I know.
it? Not to...
It says it can shave 60 men a minute and also oil, comb and powder their wigs.
There'd be some fatalities, I imagine.
You
I mean,
reckon?
if you got it wrong.
Yeah.
What a way to die, though, being shaved by a horse.
Yeah.
You've got one bloke who thinks it's a peep show and he loses a nose.
It's like Yo Sushi. But
It is like Yo Sushi.
It's like, it's where they got the idea from. Yeah.
yeah. But if they... So the blades are going to cut one fellow and then cut, because they're going around, it's the same
It's one
blades.
cheek at a time, I imagine.
Or you'd end up with more hair if you were at the end.
Well, off the razor.
Yeah.
I don't know, Bridget, if it's possible you're overthinking it.
I have got that.
How would you learn how to shave somebody else, do you think? They used to do it with cut-throat razors, but you don't want to start on somebody's face.
On a dead person?
Wow, that's dark. No.
Well, you know, you're...
It's just worrying how quickly you came up with that.
Yeah.
Because there's no... It's quite risky shaving somebody
Yes.
if they're already dead.
I suppose the stakes are low. Yeah.
I want to go to barber school, but it gives me nightmares.
I was going to say a balloon.
I know, a balloon or a corpse, whatever.
Look at all those weird dead people.
No,
Look.
it's a balloon. I mean,
Do you know
Pop along
what?
to the morgue and go, I need to practice me
Have you
cutthroat
got
razor.
I think it's
Yeah.
much better.
I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm a barber in training.
Yes, would you find terrible?
Hi, would you like to see the body? That can't be Daddy. He had a massive beard.
It'll be less frightening because those balloons, they pop very easily, and I would have more nightmares popping a balloon with a
don't like-
weird face drawn on it.
You don't like popping balloons, do you?
I think that's your go-to answer on anything. What's the best way to learn chiropody?
On a dead person.
Paula the Bearded grew facial hair to save her soul. But what's the best way to weigh our souls? No, sorry, let's say it again. What's the best way to weigh our souls?
Aye.
Someone did do an experiment like this.
They did, yeah.
A scientist in the old days weighed people just before and just after they died.
21...
21 grams.
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. Does the human soul have substance? Does it have mass? So there was a doctor in Massachusetts called Dr. Duncan McDougall in 1901, and he decided to fit a bed with weighing scales, and he got 6 dying patients to lie in it in their final moments, and then he recorded their exact weight just before they died, and then just afterwards. What I like about this is, first of all, he persuaded 6 dying people.
Yeah.
6,
Yeah.
He specifically chose people who had got conditions caused by physical exhaustion, so things like TB, for example, because he wanted them to remain still so he could get good measurements. It wasn't a flawless experiment. I have to say one patient was thoughtless enough to expire while he was calibrating the scales.
So he has to stand them on the scales.
No, the bed is on scales.
This is quite an elaborate machine.
Yeah. He measured one subject as losing 21.3 grams when he died, and he concluded that must be the weight of the soul. And for a very long time, that is what people thought. People thought the soul weighed about 21 grams. So they carried on making more experiments because he wanted to make sure. So he got 15 dying dogs. I mean, I don't know where you get them from.
Is your dog dying? Can I weigh it?
Well, he believed that dogs didn't have souls, and sure enough, none of them lost any weight when they died. They didn't lose the 21 grams.
I don't know, what does 21 grams weigh like?
I know that if you're making a macaroni cheese for
Yeah.
the family, you need 40 grams of flour.
Imagine the idea that your soul weighs half as much as you need of flour to
Flour.
make a macaroni cheese. It doesn't seem like a lot.
Well, the fact is, 2 of his 6 subjects didn't give any measurements at all. But also, at the time, there was a physician called Augustus P. Clarke, and he noted that there's often a sudden rise in body temperature when people die because the lungs stop cooling the blood, and as a subsequent rise in sweating, and that would account for the 21 grams.
That makes
There you
more
go, then.
sense.
But he's not the very first person. So, in the 13th century, the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II took a condemned man and he sealed him in a barrel and he waited for him to die.
Sorry.
The reasoning that when he did, the soul wouldn't be able to get out of the barrel, right? And then he could then open the barrel up and he'd see the soul, if the theory was true. What do you think he found?
Had the man gone?
He just found-
He trapped a magician.
he just found a dead guy. That's it.
Yeah.
There is a thing, though, about the soul leaving the body. In Latin America, has anybody ever heard of susto or susto? It's Spanish for fright. It's a sort of folk illness, and sufferers believe that their soul leaves the body while they're still alive. So it's the belief that you've had something so terrible happen to you that your soul has actually briefly departed from your body.
I've had that when I've been off a gym membership.
They have a tradition in Denmark, actually in other Scandinavian countries as well, which is that when somebody dies, that you open the window to allow the
Yes.
soul to depart. Have you
Let them go.
And cover the mirrors.
Oh.
Always cover the mirrors to prevent the soul from becoming trapped inside.
I remember when my hamster died, like that pivotal first pet dying moment, and my mum tried to cheer me up, saying, "Well, I expect that pets can go to heaven, wouldn't you, Chris?" to my dad, and my dad said, "I wouldn't have thought so." And, it wasn't trying to upset me. It's just he was a science teacher, and
Yeah.
you couldn't really see a way that could happen.
Right. Why should you never envy, sloth, lust?
Oh, look at his little face.
What, the 3 sins or the...
Well, so it depends which way we're going. Let's talk about sex with sloths first, shall we? Why
Yes,
not?
please.
It'd be weird if we didn't talk
I
about
tell
it.
you, I'm first in the queue for that one.
Isn't he this she? I don't know.
Yeah.
She.
There's a look on that face, isn't
Yeah.
there?
I mean,
Ready.
That
That's
come
like
to
a-
bed, no.
I would not be kicking that out.
No, that is
Of whatever tree you were hanging in.
that is definitely a come hither look, isn't it?
It is, really
So
is.
sloth sex begins, the female screaming at the top of her lungs that she's available.
Oh.
Ah! And then the male
4 years later.
Yeah. Slowly the man comes.
Did you hear that?
Before copulation takes place, he comes slowly towards her. Then it lasts as little as 5 seconds, and that includes the foreplay. Yeah.
Well, I think she's probably sorted herself out before he gets there, hasn't she?
Do you reckon? Well,
And then,
She's
like, I've been screaming.
A lovely turn of phrase.
yeah.
I sorted myself out before you arrived.
Yes, you were too slow, I'm afraid. I've had to sort myself out. Stopped at the pub again.
Up to half the females in the area can have children from a single male because they just think, oh, I'll just have, he's here, this one's here, and I can't wait for another one.
He's on the branch,
It's just taking too long.
as they say in sloth world.
So,
Was he on the branch?
look at him, he's
He
going.
was.
I'll be with you in a minute. Just fix me wig.
Yeah.
Really, it reminds me of somebody, and I can't put...
It's Ozzy Osbourne. It looks just like Ozzy Osbourne.
It does. Do you say sloth or sloth? I mean, both are correct.
I say sloth.
I say slow.
Yep, I say sloth as well. I don't know what... Anyway, it was... so the sloth itself was named after the sin.
You see them in the trees, obviously, and they go along the telephone wires, kind of hanging upside down. It's quite impressive, you know, this sort of all action hanging upside down, go from tree to tree like that.
But you want to be careful, though, if they're above your head, because a sloth can poo 1/3 of its body weight in a single go.
Oh, it's so impressive.
That's amazing.
That's weight loss right there.
That's 25 to 30 kilos for me.
That's, you know...
If you look at that photograph, the other thing that's intriguing me is that eye there looks like I'm in the mood for love. And then that one looks like, did I leave the grill on?
It does.
It'd be a very different world if animals could use appliances like that, wouldn't it?
That'd be great.
If they just picked up appliances from dumps and things, running cables up to trees and
Yeah.
rigging up Walkmans and stuff.
Take forever, though, if you ask a sloth to do it.
Yeah.
Well, they'd burn the shirts ironing, wouldn't they?
So let's have a quick look at the 7 deadly sins. There's pride and wrath and envy, lust, gluttony, avarice, or greed and sloth.
Are they in order?
No, not particularly. We can put them up for you. There you go. Pride, wrath, lust.
So which one is the woman combing her hair, then?
Lust. She's getting ready for...
Yeah, she wants sex so much that she's literally combing her hair.
Yeah.
What, with herself?
Yeah.
What she's doing there, Bridget, is she's sorting herself out.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's going to sort herself
For
out.
herself.
Yeah.
The original Greek list had 8 sins, including akidia, so that was like melancholy, listlessness, that kind of thing.
Has saying I'm going to love you and leave you ever been one of the deadly sins?
It should be, really, shouldn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Or it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, or having a mug that says coffee o'clock. There's a lot that's missed out by this.
That. Tristitia is despondency as well,
Oh.
on the first Christian list.
Why did they get rid of the 8th one?
They kind of folded them all in together. Pope Gregory I decided to fold lots of things in together. just to have-
Potpourri was the
Pope
first.
Gregory I.
Right. Did you say potpourri?
Potpourri.
Potpourri.
I cannot believe there isn't a pope called Potpourri.
The most fragrant
surely.
pope of them
There
all.
should be.
Surely.
Yeah.
But we have now some breaking sin news. Pope is about to add a new sin to the catechism.
Oh.
This is true. So that's the text listing the beliefs of the Catholic Church. Anybody know what the new sin is going to be?
Is it to do with the modern world?
Yeah.
Or,
Uh-oh, the modern world.
Uh-oh.
is it something to do with social media?
No, it's ecological sin.
Oh.
Thou shalt not litter.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. It's going to cover everything from dropping litter to permanently destroying parts of the environment. And it's going to be a new sin.
Wow.
I'd have gone with thou shalt not road rage.
Yeah. That's just annoying, isn't it?
Just don't like road rage. It's become part of our daily existence and it shouldn't. And I shouldn't follow them back to the houses and burn the garages down.
maybe the Pope will get onto that.
Yeah, that'll be the next thing. Why did this guy get so many column inches?
I know this.
Yes,
because
I'm willing to wait.
the saint blokes, monks
Saint
who
blokes.
stood up on pillars.
Stylites?
Yes, that's exactly what I
Stylites,
was
they're
going
called
to say.
stylites.
People who deliberately lived like that.
Yes, darling, absolutely. People who deliberately lived like
The
that.
David Blaines of their time.
Well, so we're talking about a monk called Simeon, and he could suffer more than anybody else. We're in Syria. We're near what is Aleppo now, 423 AD, and he decided, Simeon, that he wanted to live an incredibly simple life. So he was going to decide to live on top of a pillar, 60-foot high pillar, 2 foot square. OK. Now he built up to this. You don't do this. That's not the first thing you decide. First, he entered into a monastery and embarked on a lifetime of austerity. Even the other monks thought it was a bit too extreme. He dug a waist-deep hole in the garden and stayed in that for 2 years. And then the monks threw him out. So he moved into an empty cistern for a while. And then, aged 20, he had himself chained into a 2-square-yard roofless sort of enclosure.
£1,000 a week in London.
Yeah, eventually he climbed a column 60 foot high and lived there. And he became known as Simeon Stylite, or the Stylite. And he stayed there for 40 years.
And unfortunately, he died the year before Top Trumps was invented.
It sounds quite mad.
Quite bonkers, darling. He was fed with parcels of flatbread and goat's milk. We don't really know how. Either he lowered a bucket down or said small boys would climb up and give it to him. The thing is, it had the opposite effect of what he had intended. He was trying to get away from the world.
people.
And everybody went, oh, I want to go see the crazy guy who lives on top of a pillar. And huge crowds used to come. And then he would either stand with his arms extended like that, or he would repeatedly touch his toes with his forehead, like as many as sort of 1,200 times while the audience shouted out the count from down below.
And then he would defecate a third of his body weight.
I'm an avid collector. I'd turn up and go, where'd you get the column?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing about the column, darling. So this is 423 AD when he decides to take the... When do you think the column was destroyed? How long do you think it survived for, the
When
column?
it's near Aleppo, it makes me think, was it one of those recent antiquity...
2016 was destroyed by a missile. I know. It's...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it stayed there for all that time. And he then had lots of imitators called Stylites. So literally pillar dweller in Greek. And there was a guy called Saint Simeon Stylite the Younger. He spent 69 of his 76 years up a pillar. So that means he had to decide to do that when he was 7.
You'd come down and someone would say, have you ever been to the cinema? And you'd be like, oh, shit.
Oh, what a shame.
But if you're chasing humility, he's actually built just a very tall pulpit.
He gave sermons from up there. The emperor asked his advice on things. I mean, he was hardly ever left alone.
I've never felt closer to God.
I think it became like a thing in America as well.
Well, there is a sort of spiritual descendant of it, which is the flagpole-sitting craze.
In New York?
In the United States. So there was a guy called Alvin Shipwreck Kelly. And
Yes, the Irish guy.
Irish guy. So there was this is him sitting on top of a pole. It was a big craze in the 1920s and 30s. And you see how long you could stay on top of a public flagpole. He was called Alvin Shipwreck Kelly because he claimed to have been in 62 shipwrecks in his life. But have a look at this next picture. He didn't just go and sit on a flagpole. This is him on a building, the Channon Building, opposite the Empire State Building.
Oh, my...
Having donuts and coffee.
That's really extreme.
How long did he do that for?
Well, on this particular occasion, I don't know exactly, but he spent over 2 decades doing this. 20,613 hours in total he sat on top of a flagpole. The thing we do know, which is very sweet, he met his wife, Frances...
Whilst falling from a pole.
No, she was an elevator operator, so clearly didn't mind going up. And she went up the pole to shake his hand, and they fell in love. And he married her because she went up to say hello.
And then she plummeted to her death.
It is an extraordinary picture, isn't it? The thing that you have to think about the photograph is that somebody was higher up than him. Right. What's transparent, consistently thick, a bit of a pain, and comes from St Helens?
Hello, mate.
Is it a piece of glass?
It is glass, absolutely. It's the second best thing to ever come out of St Helens, after our very own Johnny.
Yeah, glass. And we invented... 2 things we invented.
Go on, then.
Float glass.
Yeah.
Which was floating the glass on hot tin, so you didn't have to polish the other side of the glass. And we gave the world porn because we came up with fibre optics.
You're absolutely right about float glass. It used to be very expensive to make perfectly flat glass. And this guy, Alistair Pilkington, in the 1950s, he realised if you pour molten glass onto molten tin, then it lies completely flat. It cools and hardens, and it made it so much cheaper. Other heroes of St Helens, the first photographs clearly showing a human face were taken by a son of St Helens.
Really?
John William Draper. And his sister Dorothy, they worked out new ways of making what were called daguerreotypes. They put flour on the women's faces to try and get more contrast before taking the shot. He's also the very first person, Johnny, to take a picture of the moon.
I never knew this.
Did you know that the largest bug hotel in the world is in your former school? They have a bug hotel more than 80 cubic metres in size. It's the largest one in the world.
Oh, wow.
You must be proud.
I've always been proud. I'm just dead chuffed for this.
What's the bug hotel?
A bug hotel?
Well, you build them and it's where bugs hide in winter.
Yes, you should. If you have any outdoor space of any kind, it's a really good idea to try and create a bug hotel.
Can you charge them like a
Yes.
hotel?
I mean, it depends on what services you're offering.
Yeah.
If you turn down the beds at night, that kind of thing. Room service.
Little chocolate on the pillow.
I'm just dead happy to be talking about St Helens on telly.
that's
It's...
so lovely.
Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure.
It is. We were innovators back in the day. And then Thatcher!
If you're
Oh,
as
I
close
miss
to him as
the
I am,
80s.
that was quite frightening. It was quite
There's one answer to everything.
That would have come out in a different question and it wouldn't have been apt.
I thought he was going to deck me for a second.
I'm glad you're all right, Mark. But is there a theatre there?
Yeah, Theatre Royal. And the Citadel, where I cut my teeth, basically. I went and I heckled. And they asked me to come back and compare. We had a verbal agreement that they couldn't afford to pay me, but my drinks were free. And the second gig I got a letter going, we'll give you 30 quid.
And you have to buy your own drink.
True, you can buy your own.
My first gigs at the Comedy Store, I was paid in beer. We all got free beer.
Yeah, I know, but I turned up at 6 a.m.
Fair enough.
No, it was great. It was great. I love my hometown. You really. Ooh,
Oh, I'm so
I can't. I'm lost for words. It's lovely.
Anyway, moving on. Why does nobody respect the Spanish Inquisition?
The Spanish Inquisition, I didn't realise it, went on for about 350 years.
Yeah, it went on for an extremely long time.
incredible.
And the thing about it is that it wasn't anywhere near as bad as they have suggested.
It's kind of a low level.
Yeah, so
Polite
now
inquiry.
there's lots of... well, there are lots of...
More like a pub quiz, really.
yeah, it's really... Yeah, exactly that.
It was optional form filling.
Multiple choice.
Yeah, it was exaggerated. The Catholic Church has looked into it and said, we're really happy to say sorry for all the things we've done, and there's a few, you know, but we didn't do this. Torture was very much a last resort. They had rules. You could only do 15 minutes and there had to be a doctor there, and you couldn't give anybody permanent injury, and you couldn't draw blood.
A bit like Joe Wicks's thing, really.
Yes, it is very like a workout, isn't it? Yeah.
If you're going to waterboard them, use Evian.
Or ask if they want sparkling. Yeah. Most sentences were prayers and fasts, and lots of punishments were commuted. The life sentence, which was known as perpetual imprisonment, lasted for 3 years. The only people they executed, really, were what they called relapsers, people who had said, I'm sorry, and then gone off and done it again. Secular prisoners sometimes blasphemed in prison in order to get themselves transferred to an Inquisition prison because they thought they'd get a fairer trial.
Oh, have you got any examples of what any of them said?
Like, ooh, last.
He's rubbish, that
Yes,
God.
oh, I say.
Ruddy Catholics.
Yes. But they were rather meticulous. There was an inquisitor called Salazar y Frias, and he did a meticulous investigation of the Basque witch panic of
Is that Jude
1610.
Law?
Well, it does look like Jude Law, doesn't it? But he did a meticulous investigation of the Basque witch thing and determined in the end that it was all made up by the accusers. And the actual conviction rate was incredibly low. It was about 6% on average. And from 1560 to 1700, they put on 3,687 people on trial for witchcraft, and only 101 were found guilty. I mean, it just is not quite the thing that maybe we all thought it was.
Almost if there weren't that many witches.
I know, that's the weird thing, isn't it, Mark? Yes, you think, And being unpopular was very handy because inquisitors realised that lots of people were using the Inquisition as a way to settle local scores, and all you pretty much had to do if you went up on charge of something is to say nobody likes me. The accused were allowed to provide a list of anybody who had a grudge against them. One judge just produced a list of people that he had sentenced to things and said, all these people hate me. It's not possible that I wouldn't be falsely accused. So that was the end of that. Now, who was younger than James the Younger?
James the Even Younger.
James, the tiny little prat.
Yeah.
Who was James the
He's a
Younger?
disciple, is it?
He's a disciple, yes. Also known as St James the Less, which is not as good as it.
He's been called the Less.
This is him sitting
Was this on the end? Is that
at Simon with his
that young?
hand going like,
Oh,
oh,
shut up, James.
James, shush.
Listen, I'm not less. I'm very much the same size as the other James.
Yeah.
You ever talk about anything else? Simon, look at me. Look at me. Can't look at you. There's something weird on your left.
Don't look now.
So Saint James the Younger, some people think he's identified as one of Jesus' brothers, and I love a relic. OK? And for more than 1,500 years, the St Apostolic Church in Rome had fragments of a thigh bone that belonged to James the Younger. I mean, who wouldn't want to go and see that, right? Fantastic. And then 2020, it was radiocarbon dated by the University of Southern Denmark.
Those spoil sport.
Yeah, when they showed the bone belonged to the body of someone born between 214 and 340 AD. So the body, the thigh bone, was younger than James the Younger. James the Younger shouldn't be confused with James the Great. See, there was James the Less and James the Great,
Right.
both apostles.
Must have been a rivalry between those guys.
They must not have got on, I would have thought. What I like about James the Great is he was the son of Zebedee. Anyway, the hand of James was the sort of star relic at Reading Abbey, founded in 1121 by Henry I, and they also had fragments of the True Cross, which is...
Of
lots
course.
yeah. One of Christ's sandals.
Oh.
James's hand disappeared at the dissolution of the monasteries that Henry VIII instituted, and then it was rediscovered, well, rather, a left hand was rediscovered in 1786, and now it is in the Roman Catholic Church in Marlow, in Buckinghamshire. But it's also been carbon dated. I'm sorry to tell you, it's about 900 years off. It ought to be. So that's holy hands and holy legs, but why might you come home from a pilgrimage with a vagina? So, just like today, medieval holy sites did a roaring trade in souvenirs, and people brought back badges as tokens of the journey, and they were often in the likeness of saints, but sometimes they were much, much weirder. And I have a replica here. Let me show you this one. This is a replica of a 14th century Dutch vagina shooting an arrow on horseback.
You don't often see them do that.
You don't. You don't. I can also offer you, I have here a phallus. A phallus with an... I don't know if it's a man or a woman pushing a wheelbarrow of phalluses.
I didn't think you could top St Helens, but
Yeah.
this is really...
Replicas of the various badges. What else have I got here? I've got a penis on a boat. I don't know why.
I know.
We've all met those.
But
Yeah.
I'm trying to... The guy on the fallacies.
Yes, the phallus.
There, on
yes.
the top one, on to the left.
Oh, this one here.
Yeah, he looks like he's got a penis puppy farm.
It looks like he's selling fireworks.
They could be like little Monopoly.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good idea.
The,
Do you want to be the penis or the vagina?
can I...
You've not been buying fireworks off that bloke with a massive cock again, have you?
Now, why might you do this? Why might you have phalluses? Why might you have vaginas? What is the reason for them?
Light entertainment.
They're little fertility, good luck charm things.
Oh, yeah, that's...
It's protection from the evil eye, possibly.
OK.
OK, so if somebody's sick, you do not want to look them in the eye.
Is that a penis you're wearing?
Yes, I say. Don't look me in the eye,
Well,
don't look me in the eye. And then the other thing is that the tourist trade has not changed. People have not changed. People buy bawdy and humorous objects. and they sell well.
Was it ever called a vag badge, Sandra?
A badge, yeah. I like that.
I think this is a thing that can be monetised. I might as well
I think
copyright
badge is good, yeah. Right, now, prepare for Judgment Day as we enter the limbo of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please.
All right.
Who designed this staircase?
Oh, what's his name?
Yes, darling.
What you're thinking of is Escher, but it could be a trap.
It's a bloody trap. So he is the one most famously associated with the impossible looped staircase that you would climb for eternity. But these are the Penrose stairs figure, and they were created by a British psychiatrist and mathematician called Lionel Shopples Penrose, marvellous name, and his son Sir Roger Penrose, first published in 1958.
Imagine calling your son Sir Roger.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, it's aspirational.
What are you going to call him,
Yeah,
Sir Roger?
Sir Roger. What happened is the Penroses had been inspired by Escher's earlier work on impossible figures. They sent a copy of their staircase to him to see if he liked it. He liked it so much that he decided to make a staircase of his own. So the Penroses, the British Penroses, were the ones who inspired Escher to do his drawing. Actually, Penrose is a really interesting guy. First of all, he won the Nobel Prize in Physics for work on black holes. The other thing he's famous for, this seems really unlikely, he win the Nobel Prize for Physics, he's also famous for tiling. So he created a mathematically revolutionary way of arranging floor tiles so you could cover an infinite plane without the pattern ever repeating. Oh. Which is amazing. So more than 20 years after he came up with this pattern, Penrose sued Kleenex for using it on toilet paper. Why might they have decided to recreate this never-repeating pattern on toilet paper?
Angles of grip when you're removing.
That's exactly right, darling. The toilet paper would not stick together. That's brilliant. You get an extra point. Yeah, and so the sheets were less likely to stick together. And he sued them, and the case was settled out of court.
Imagine winning the Nobel Prize, but also suing a toilet paper manufacturer.
I know, it's great, isn't it? That seems like the full portfolio career.
Everything.
Now, where would you find the largest body of water in Africa?
It's not going to be that massive, massive lake. Is it going to be the Nile? Is the Nile the largest body of... Is it, therefore, that massive, massive lake?
That massive, massive lake. What lake are we talking
Is it
about?
not Victoria? No. Is it a river that goes into a lake that never ends from the top of the continent to the bottom or something?
Are these all traps and it's just someone with a massive paddling pool or something?
Yeah, no, none of those things.
Is it underground?
Yes.
Oh.
It's underground, it's
Is it a
underground.
reservoir?
Underground, it's the most unlikely place.
Thank God. I was just
Sahara
gonna say-
Desert.
It is exactly right. Is it?
50 points.
Yes, well done, Alan. Very well done. Underneath the eastern end of the Sahara lies around 150,000 cubic kilometres of water. That is 3/4 of the total amount of water held in all lakes in the world. Wow. It's basically a huge mass of very wet rock, and every single crevice, every nook, every cranny is filled with fossil water, so water that's been trapped deep underground rather than it's part of the water cycle. Wow. And the Nubian sandstone aquifer system is the largest known fossil water aquifer system in the world. It spans a land area of 2 million square kilometres, lying under much of Egypt, Sudan, Chad and Libya. Africa was once home to the largest freshwater lake in the world. It was known as Mega Chad, and it covered an incredible area of Central Africa, more than the whole of the British Isles. So if we superimpose the British Isles on top, this will give you some idea of how big this water mass was. And then 1,000 years ago, it suddenly shrank.
I had an idea for a television series once, where you would move Britain to a different part of the world and then discuss the consequences. You know, climate, neighbours, nearest war zone.
High-budget stuff.
Yeah. I was told by quite a well-known producer that it might work as a segment, but not as a whole show. Looks like I might have to podcast the bastard. I mean, what you'd have to deal with is all the people on the island who didn't want to move.
Yeah, you might have to...
Come on, we could go to the Indian Ocean for a couple of years. No, this is where we are. But you hate Europe. You don't want to be anywhere. We can move you.
I think it's definitely a segment, darling. Lake Chad is tautological. Do anybody know what that
Does it mean Chad means lake?
Yes, Chad means lake in the Kanuri language. I love things like that. Sahara Desert is another one, tautological. Canvey Island, Wookey Hole Cave, Pendle Hill. This is Lancashire. Pen means hill, Dull means hill, and hill means hill, so it basically means hill.
Hill, hill, hill!
All right, I heard you.
Was it named by someone who fell down it?
Yeah. Why that? Hill, hill, hill. Hill, hill, hill.
You fell down the what? The pen. The what?
The what?
hill.
Hill.
What? The hill? Pendle Hill? Yeah. What happened? I fell down it!
Which country's air force did this plane belong to?
You can
It's a
see a
trick.
accent here.
The Germans didn't have the swastika on their plane, the Luftwaffe.
Whose do you think it is?
It's going to be a Buddhist Air Force.
Yes, I love that. So the great Sanskrit symbol of good luck, found in many ancient cultures, the swastika. The Nazis adopted it as a party emblem in 1920 and then as a national symbol for Germany in 1933. But it had already been in use for 2 years by the Finnish people.
I was just about to buzz in with Ryanair.
In 1918, a Swedish nobleman, Count Erik von Rosen, had donated a plane decorated with one to the newly formed Finnish Air Force, and they carried on using it until 1945, when it was getting a bit awkward.
Should we change the badge? What should we have instead? I've seen this brilliant thing. You won't believe it. It's like a penis with feet.
The Cross of Freedom, which is a variant of the swastika, still features today in the top left-hand corner of the official flag of the Finnish president. And the Danish brewery Carlsberg used swastika as a logo. From the 19th century to the mid-1930s, they dropped it, obviously, with the Nazis taking it on. But you can still see it in the carved stone Indian elephants that stand at the gates of the company's headquarters. Now, what does this stand for?
It's not SOS.
Oh, OK, what does it stand for?
No, we're just gonna rule out
Let's face it,
everything
it's
else.
not. It's not my home address.
It's not RSVP either.
It's not RSVP, thank you.
Well, it is ... ..
Yes.
Are we confused? Does that mean OSO?
The thing is, it doesn't stand for SOS.
Oh.
If it was going to be the letters, you'd have them with a gap. So you'd have ... gap, ... gap, ... It's a continuous stream. We say SOS is a convenient way of remembering what the signal is, but it could just as easily be rendered as VTB and remembered as vacate the boat. The thing is, the distress is universal. It doesn't depend on language. You don't need to know what the SOS stands for. We just know that that is the signal. Before that, they used to signal CQD, and then it was agreed in 1906 that they would make it simpler. There was a big international wireless telegraph convention in Berlin, and that's where we get the SOS from. But it doesn't actually stand for Save Our Souls.
And then they invented texting.
It took a while to catch on, actually. When the Titanic went down, they still transmitted CQD. They might think it was SOS, but it was not. And so it's time for another SOS Sandy's horrible scores. Let's see who's on cloud nine and who's in the sin bin. In fourth place, languishing in the pits of eternal damnation with -22. Oh, Alan.
Thank you.
In third place with -8, it's Mark.
I'll take that.
In second place with 7 whole points, Bridget. Holy mackerel. In first place.
Take your time with this.
The man from St Helens, Johnny, with 13. All that remains is for me to thank Mark, Johnny, Bridget and Alan. I leave you with a sagacious sign-off from Audrey Hepburn. Makeup can only make you look pretty on the outside, but it doesn't help if you're ugly on the inside, unless you eat the makeup. Good night.